and today we are going to learn the Danish gambit traps. So let's get started. So if we want to learn the Danish gambit traps, first we had to play the Danish gambit opening. Some of you might already know how to play the Danish gambit opening. Those of you know, they have watched my video of the center game traps, because I tell it the Danish gambit, how to play the Danish gambit opening there. When we were playing e4, e5, d4 and black captured, I said that if you played it c3, that would make the Danish gambit. So we will play c3 instead of capturing the pawn. Now c3. Now this is not the Danish gambit already. Black first had to capture the c3 pawn. If he captures, then that's the Danish gambit. We play now bishop to c4. Black captures another pawn and we capture his pawn back with our dark squared bishop. And this is called the Danish gambit accepted line. Now as you see, we have just developed two of our pawns. So for just one black pawn. And barely, there is also some tricks we have to play, but there are some rules we have to do first. Like, don't exchange pieces. Exchange means give one piece and get another, like that. So barely, don't trade your bishops because they are very important in the Danish gambit accepted line game. And also, the bishops are basically important because they go to these diagonals where the light squared bishop is pointing at the weak square. I know this is the weak square. This is called the weak square of 7. If you don't know about them, this is the weak f2 square and this is the weak f7 square. Why they are weak? Because in the starting of the game, they are only defended by the king. So that's why they make him weak. And if there are two defenders, like two attackers, then you can easily capture the pawn. And that the f2 and f7 pawns have a chance of forks, like with the bishop or knight, for forking the queen and rook. Now, barely the light squared bishop is pointing there, but the dark squared bishop is pointing after it, the g7 square. And basically, this dark squared bishop has no squares. Pretend that it moves only straight, because barely if it does move, like let's say here, or in here, then this pawn will be not defended right here. The g7 pawn, it will not be defended. So the dark squared bishop will capture it, and then also the rook will fall there. So the bishop cannot move. And since this is going to be also open game, you should not trade your bishops. Whichly I tell you about that. So first we will learn about the traps, and then we will learn how to avoid these traps if you are black and your opponent tries to play these traps against you. So let's go and start with our first trap. And also, there's some more things. You should not let your opponent get to level up his pieces. Means getting them out of the back row. You should try. If they're a little bit level up, that's okay. And also, especially, there are good opportunities where you have to sacrifice the light squared bishop and expose the black king. Expose means there are many attacks on them. And basically, there's some opportunities where you have to get your queen out too early. I know we cannot get out our queen too early, but this is the only way. And it is completely fine to get it out right now in the Danish gambit, but not in the center game or not in the other sides. I know we said level up the knights and bishops, but our bishops are level up. Even though the knights are not level up, getting out the queen a little too early, it's okay, but not every time. So now enough talking, and now let's start. But there are two more things. There are some also opportunities where you can attack the black queen, so you can capture it. And also this knight here, right on here, which is g8, and moved it to f6, then you can attack the knight with playing e5. So then you will force the knight to move again, or even try to trap it. So now let's go and start, because there are no more talkings now. Now if in this one, if black played it d6, then you will play knight f3. And now if black plays bishop to g4, trying to pin the f3 knight to the queen, then that's a big mistake. Pretend that the knight can move like the diagonal and capture the bishop easily, because there's a secret little trap here. So first we will again sacrifice the bishop that I mentioned. Bishop takes f7 check. Then after the black king captures our bishop, we will play knight to e5 check. I know that we are opening up this diagonal and our queen will be lost. But look, after we moved it our knight, it is actually checking out the black king. And since the king is important than the queen, so black has not enough time to capture our queen. So now let's say black goes back to e8. Now instead of just moving away our queen or moving back our knight, we could instead capture the black bishop because it's being attacked. You like this move, right? If you like this move, please like the video. So that was a good trap. Now let's look at another one. Now here's another cool trap. Instead of playing d6, black could play knight to c6. Then we play knight to f3, and then knight f6 comes. These are all normal level up moves. And then we play e5. As we discussed earlier, attacking the knight with the pawn. Now that we have the knight attacked, the knight goes to e4. Now the knight is to e4. We will sacrifice a bishop, as I mentioned earlier. Bishop takes f7 check. And after the king captures our bishop, we play queen to d5 check this time. And now after the king moves, we could just capture the knight for free. And I told you this one in my hanging pieces video. So now black's king is fully exposed because he has lost his right to castle, which makes it exposed. And there are two open lines which could expose the king. And if this pawn and knight move away, then the king will have another exposed diagonal. So one of the pieces should stay there, like the pawn. So the queen cannot go in a straight line. So now let's look at another trap. This one starts with queen to g5. Now after queen to g5, we will play knight to f3. Now if black falls for this trap and captures the g2 pawn, then he's gone. Let me show you how. Now after black captures the g2 pawn, we will play rook to g1. You might be thinking, why are we moving our rook to a not defended square? Well guys, when we moved our knight, it is still protecting that square. So we could move our rook here and attack the queen. So the queen cannot capture because the queen is more important than just the rook. So yes. Now what after this move black will play? Black will play queen to h3. Now we will play the same idea, bishop takes f7 check. Now this time he cannot take the white bishop because if he does, then we could play knight to g5 check, which forces the king and queen, and the queen is lost. So he must play a move like king to d8. Now what will we play next? We will play rook takes g7 check. Rook takes g7. Sorry for that because this is not a check. Barely here we have sacrificed the rook. You might think that why are we sacrificing it? The black bishop could just capture for the rook and the bishop is not that important than a rook. Well, if we did capture the rook, we will capture his bishop with our dark squared bishop, and later we could also capture his rook. So one rook will be equal to 8 points, and 8 points are less than 5 points, which is a rook, because we will want a bishop and a rook. Now if we didn't capture the rook, then he must move his knight somewhere because this knight is attacked twice by the rook and bishop. So after the knight moves away, like knight f6, then we play. Let's say the knight goes to h6. Then we could do a discovered attack. Now black will lose either his rook or his queen. But what if black played it knight to another square? Let's say black played it knight to f6 instead. Then we will play. So if black played it knight to f6, we could just capture that knight. And this time we again did a check. Now this time the black king cannot go to e8 because the light squared bishop is controlling. So black has to block with the e7 bishop. Then we play rook to g3. And again this is the same thing. Black will lose either his rook or queen. I know we are attacking the bishop and the bishop is attacking us. And even though he captured our bishop, he will still lose his queen. So black has to move away his queen and the rook will be lost. Now let's look at another fancy trap. Here this time we have bishop to b4 check. Then we block with our knight. Now black plays knight to f6. We play e5 attacking the knight. Then black plays knight to e4 attacking this knight right over here. He's putting pressure on the knight. We will basically play this sacrifice again. Bishop takes f7 check. And now if he takes our bishop, then we will regain the bishop by playing queen to b3 check. So after the king moves, we could capture this bishop and also add another and attack the knight already. And we will keep our knight protected. So then what if he didn't take the bishop? Instead he plays like something king to f8. Then we play bishop to a3, forcing him to take our bishop. Then knight takes knight, king takes bishop, and then we play queen to f3 check, which again forks the king and bishop. Now we could win the bishop. Now let's say black plays. Now if black goes to e8, we could capture his bishop. But instead of playing queen to f3, you could also play queen to b3. And that is the same thing as queen playing to f3. Now let's look at another one. And then we'll see how to block these ideas for black if your opponent tries to play these against you. And also remember, this is a trap, not for black, which blocks all the ideas. We will play, black plays d5, which is basically called the selector defense. Then we capture the bishop, and then black attacks our bishop. Then we go for the idea, bishop takes f7 check. Now he could not capture the bishop because if he does, he will lose his queen. So he should play something like king to e7. Then we play bishop to a3, forcing him to capture the bishop, which gets his queen. Now you might be wondering, how could we stop all these ideas? Well, to stop all of these ideas, you should play the selector defense. But you should know the correct way to play it. After playing d5 and bishop takes d5, your best move playing as black is knight f6. Now this bishop takes f7 move doesn't work anymore, because after king takes, queen takes, you could play bishop to b4 check, which checks the king and also launches a discovered attack on the queen. Now white has no option but to block with his queen to just win a bishop, and which black has a better position from white's. As black, you can also already stop this position. Instead, when white plays c3 or the third move, instead of capturing this pawn from a white, you could instead play this move, which is d5. And this one is the clapper banker defense. And when you play d5, you have declined the gambit. And now, although Danish gambit traps are out, so you will not be trapped by the Danish gambit traps if you are playing as black. Now, if you enjoyed this video, then please like and subscribe, because these videos come all the time. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.